trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Rock and get us pulling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart and the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Amadaya production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Rock and get us pulling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart and the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Rock and get us pulling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In our heart and the struggle, we dare.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Amadaya-Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Amadaya-Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let me just say, I hope it's a good morning because I don't know what is going on with StreamYard. As you can see, I'm having some technical difficulties. I had to restart and now I have to keep my camera off because I don't know what in the world is going on. It's not allowing me to use my background. So anyway, I'll figure it all out later. But how's everybody doing? Listen, if you missed the broadcast from last night, go back and watch it. You don't have to listen to what Trump was talking about. fast forward that and listen to the rest, okay? Now, hello, DJ Big Six, G from the Land, Mr. Elevation, Nessa G, Dark Tube, 504 Nola, Maurice Brown Bag, it's in Virtual Building, Desmond, Randa Wise, Leon Gardner is here. All right, let's get into it, Mr. Elevation, Millicent. All right, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Cassandra. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. Shout out to DJ Big Six and Love Christie. All right, here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil. Okay, so now let's get into it because this is all really crazy. What's going on here? Trump was telling all those lies last night. Oh my goodness, it was just a lot of lies. Okay, first off, let's talk about how he was saying that 45,000 protesters were killed in Iran. Okay, like they really killed 45,000 of their own people. That's a lie. Okay, when they said it was 30,000, that was a lie. And anyone really with common sense should know that's a lie. Why would they murder that many people? Mass casualties over protest. That's crazy. Okay, meanwhile, back in the USA, we had people die at protest for no good reason. But here's the thing. Here, Love Chris said I couldn't listen to the lies. I'm waiting on your update, Queen. Thank you, beloved. Here's the thing. That was all set up by BB. Okay, that whole thing with the protest, see, they had plans. And I want you all to pay attention because when the false flag comes, just look to the same people who did what they did over in Iran because that was not, this was all by design. So they supposedly, according to some information that's been out there, they had plants out there in the protest. And they had these plants, okay, Hamas, they had them to start shooting at the officers. And so if they're shooting at the officers, what do you think the officers are going to do? They're going to return fire. And so then people got killed. Okay, that's how that went. They don't tell that part. Okay, they're trying so desperately with this hate campaign, this nefarious smear campaign that's been going on for 40 years, ever since BB. Okay, ever since BB started it, because remember, he said he's been waiting 40 years for this. He couldn't talk President Obama into it. He couldn't talk, Biden into it. Trump was the only one stupid enough, okay, and someone so willing to be a puppet. That's exactly what he is. And I told you all 1,000 times that I absolutely believe that Putin and Satan Yahoo both have information on Trump that pertains to the Epstein files. Lumumba Amin already said that it was the case with BB. And I absolutely believe it. So with that all being said, let's talk about it because while he was giving that speech, Iran was at work dropping those bombs. Okay. Now, so it didn't turn out so great for Israel, but we're going to get into that in a second. But let's talk about the attack on the tech companies first, because they say that Iran threatens to strike U.S.-owned infrastructure in the Middle East. Tech companies Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Meta were among those targeted by the latest threats. Now, the IRGC threatened Tuesday to target American tech and defense companies that are operating in the Middle East if the U.S. and Israel continue to target Iranian leadership. In a statement released by the government-backed Tassim news agency, the IRGC said retaliatory attacks could begin as early as Wednesday evening and advised employees and residents living within 1 kilometer radius of the U.S.-owned facilities to evacuate the areas. Now, I want you all to pay attention to that because I've also told you previously that they always warn people what they're going to do before they do it. And I'm talking about Iran. They always warn the people to evacuate and they give them enough time to do so. That is not the same thing that happens with Trump, okay, and Netanyahu. They absolutely purposely, intentionally murder civilians. They are, in fact, the terrorists. And that's just what it is. Okay, I don't care what lies and malicious narratives they try to paint. Now, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, then you know that it's all BS, okay? So with that all being said, as it pertains to these tech companies, here's what they say. Primary target. So the headquarters of Baltelco, Bahrain's largest telecommunications operator in Hamala, was hit. Now, this site is a major regional hub for AWS servers. Now, the strike caused significant fire, structural damage, and power outages at the data center. AWS has reported increased API error rates and service disruptions in the ME South 1 region. Now, the outage has impacted local banking operations. Please pay attention. So, now, with that all being said, commercial data centers are where the cloud lives. So the next time you pull up Netflix and watch your favorite shows, you're likely streaming the programming from a data center, possibly AWS. Now, when AWS data centers go down, outages affect all sorts of entertainment, news, and government functions. With AI as a driver of economic growth, data centers are key forms of infrastructure. They ensure that AI can continue to run, as well as much of the underlying internet that governments and industry rely on. When Iran attacked the UAE's data centers, it caused widespread disruption to the local banking system. Okay, so what do they expect? Okay, they brought this on themselves. Now, with that all being said, does anyone remember the time some years ago, and back in 2022, actually, do you all remember, and I had forgotten about this until the video recently resurfaced, in which I'm going to go to in a second, but do you all remember when Kanye West told us that Jared Kushner was Trump's handler? Does anyone remember that? Now, see, I have been telling you all that Jared Kushner's running the show. Okay, Trump's got several handlers. If you ask me, he's got Putin, he's got Yahoo, and Jared. Okay? Putin's not really telling Trump what to do, I don't believe. Trump is just doing whatever Putin wants done because he doesn't want to tick Putin off. Because I think he fears and respects Putin. Now, Yahoo, on the other hand, in my opinion, is manipulative. Okay? He's manipulative. But we're going to go to some footage of what one of his own people, Yahoo, one of his own people said about him. Okay? Now, before we get to that, let's go back to that Kanye video when he told us who was really running Trump. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. And also, I want you all to hear how they've been threatening people. Okay, BB's people, how they have this group. They've been threatening people that you better not say this, you better not do that. We're going to ruin your lives. We'll make you lose your jobs, even when you try to find a spouse. Just saying all of these things. Now, that's all fine and dandy if that's how they want to run it. But I just wish that people who look like me could get a half of the respect that they get, okay? Because it's okay. They can have whole hate groups that target us. Okay, they can have the police brutalizing us, doing us all kinds of ways, taking us up out of here, sending us into the spiritual realm, and just getting off scot-free in most of the cases. And speaking of which, the officer who took the life of not Sandra Bland, of Sonia Massey, he got like 20 years, okay? He got like 20. He should have gotten a life sentence if you ask me. But anyway, let's go to the footage. I'm going to share my screen. Everyone hit the like button. Thank you in advance.
I had a dinner with Ivanka, Jared, and Josh. And a couple days later, I found out that Josh Kushner had 10% of Skims, which is a line that I had developed with Kim. And I had a lot of issues with the imagery of Skims. I felt like there's a lot of imagery that was overly sexualized and things that I wouldn't want to see my wife and definitely not my daughters doing in the future in order to sell product. But it reaches another level when it's like, okay, well, this is what my wife is doing, and this is what they're doing this is what she's doing for our children. But it reaches another level when her business partners are selling pieces of company that they don't have to because the company's already so successful and it's an internet-based company. So it's like they're really just selling off the company in order to create more relationships for themselves that are unneeded. It's like when I went to the Gap and with our release, they just like, they shoveled it out. I'm very cautious with my words. I'm really big on being able to have an adult conversation in front of the children. So I don't use explicit language in interviews especially. So I found out after this dinner that Josh Kushner had 10% of Skims and I had 5% of Skims. And regardless if, Josh Kushner figured out how to put $150 million, I'm sure it wasn't out of his own account, but $150 million, and I'm sure Jared still has a piece of that fund. Regardless of them putting that money in, for me to have been an owner in it and not known, just from a place as a creative where Skims is so based on a lot of the Yeezy ideas, then it's based on all of the relationships in fashion, because I had to use my relationships in fashion in order to establish Kim in a way where fashionable people would say, hey, I'm down to wear Kim's line. And these VCs, they come in and they get a piece of it after the fact, and they run around and say they have ownership in it. So as I put on my Instagram, which, luckily for everyone, they could just write it off that, I'm crazy until they see my disposition in this interview, and then it's going to get scary. I said, hey, Josh, what if I had 10% of Carly Kloss's lingerie, shapewear, swimsuit line, and you have 5% of it, and you didn't know? How would that make you feel? And then after talking to them and really sitting with Jared and sitting with Josh and finding out other pieces of information, I was like, wow, these guys might have really been holding Trump back and being very much a handler right then. They love to just look at me or look at Trump like we're so crazy and that they're the businessmen. So when I think about all of these things that Jared, somehow doesn't get enough credit for with his work. And what is it? His work in Israel or his work in Palestine? What is this? Where he made these peace treaties? Where was that? Do you know the facts on this right here? So I'm like...
I think that was between Israel and some of the Arab nations.
I just think it was to make money. I don't know. Is that too heavy-handed to put on this platform?
No, that's your opinion. We're not in the censorship business.
Okay, thank you. And I just think that that's what they're about, is making money. I don't think that they have the ability to make anything on their own. I think they were born into money. And for me, as a maverick and a talent and a person that's been, beat, kicked, lost everything, sad to have lost my mind, went from pull myself up by my boots don't have straps on them, but I say pull myself up from my boots to becoming a multi-billionaire that gets the price every year of my net worth goes down every year on Forbes. They just keep on slowly just taking it down every year. It's like really a weird thing. But as a person that has really built something from nothing, when I sit across the table from a Josh Kushner and he just feels so entitled to that idea, and this person has never brought anything of value other than so-called being a good venture capitalist, I have a major issue with that. And it makes me feel like they weren't serving my boy, Trump, the way we could have, because, you know, Trump wanted nothing but the best for this country. And it doesn't, like, Moses stuttered. And saying God is not always going to bring the most perfect personality. A lot of times, the most fake people, their job is talking and making people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and the realest people are going to make you feel uncomfortable at first.
Okay, poor Kanye, he actually thought that Trump wanted what was best for the country, but pay attention. He said that Jared Kushner was Trump's handler, and he absolutely is, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. Let's go to this clip right here.
Fellow Americans, good evening.
House presidential addresses are always a big deal. So what was this one?
Tonight, I want to provide an update.
Well, to be honest, it felt a little bit like a rundown of all the things he's been saying and posting on social media for days now.
I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
It actually felt like the sort of speech that you might expect a president to give at the beginning of a conflict, not 30 days into it. He listed his objectives, which he said were now almost complete.
We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten.
The problem for the president is that Iran is still capable of projecting that power. Wednesday saw one of the largest Iranian ballistic missile attacks on Israel since the war began. He claims that Iran is now unable to build a nuclear weapon.
Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb.
Yet remember, the nuclear material, the uranium, that remains unaccounted for. The key.
Now, I want you all to pay attention. Remember what Trump just said. Okay, remember what he just said. You're going to find out in a minute who told him to say that. Trump is nothing more than a stupid puppet. Let's continue.
Audience here was, of course, the American people. He's holding his base, but more broadly, his polling numbers are terrible, and he knows it.
Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking.
That it not much of Hormuz is shut. Not my problem was essentially his message, except that it is his problem because Americans are paying much, much more at the pump as well, and increasingly for so much more too. It is simply global supply and demand.
The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will actually
again. Now, he said this war was never about regime change, but that the regime had changed.
They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable.
Yet the evidence right now suggests that it is, in fact, harder line than it was before. He talked of a deal, too.
Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets.
But a deal with who and on what, he didn't explain.
If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
The threat to hit power plants, that is not new. He said it a number of times, and it would, remember, constitute potentially a war crime. Actually, the only surprise from the speech was that he did not choose to repeat criticism of NATO allies or threaten, as he has done this past week, to pull out of NATO. Overall, though, anyone looking for a clear path out of this conflict, well, it didn't come from the White House.
Okay, I want you all to pay attention because, as I told you, when Trump was talking about their nuclear capabilities and, you know, making sure they don't continue to have their proxies and all of that, you know who told him to say that? I'm so glad you asked. Saudi Arabia told him to say that. It's interesting because Trump's always talking about America first, but he's always looking out for other people first. He's looking out for Netanyahu and his people. He's looking out for Saudi Arabia. He's looking out for the Gulf countries or the Gulf nations. So let's get to the footage. Because I took it upon myself to do a TikTok about it just this morning. And there you can see Sonia Massey. It says the cop who killed Sonia Massey got 20 years in prison. That's not enough, but we'll take it. At least he didn't get off scot-free, as they often do. Okay, likes up. Everyone, please like and share. Here it is. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shakur. So the Gulf nations have urged Trump to continue moving forward with the war against Iran. As soon as they found out that he was even thinking about pulling out the troops, whether the Strait of Hormuz was opened or not, they got onto him. Let's get into it. Trump was asked if he thought that the Gulf nations should join in the fight against Iran. He says that they already are. He says Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, they're all fighting back ferociously. Now, mind you, the UAE is very upset because they say that they have always been known as the tourist and the safe hub in the Middle East, but now their reputation has been tarnished because of the war. And also, they say that he needs to move forward with the ground invasion. They've been hit with 2,300 missile and drone attacks from Iran. Mind you, Qatar and Oman basically want to have a diplomatic solution. However, Saudi Arabia, they argue that the war settlement must neutralize Iran's nuclear program, destroy its ballistic missile capabilities, end Tehran's support for proxies, and ensure that the Strait of Hormuz can't be effectively shut down in the future. Now, I find that interesting because when did Trump start taking orders from Saudi Arabia? Okay, is he the one that's in charge or are they? Is he having all of these different people in his ear, like the Gulf nations, Satan Yahoo? It seems like everyone's telling him what to do. Does he even know how to think for himself? I have several questions. Please pay attention. Listen, I get it. These nations are very upset because they're losing a whole lot of revenue. Okay, Saudi Arabia has been forced to cut their oil output. Their chemical company, Sadara, which is a joint venture between Saudi state oil giant Aramco and U.S. chemicals firm Dow, they've had to temporarily shut down production, citing the ongoing supply chain disruptions. Now, Sadara Chemical operates a complex in the Saudi city of Jabal with annual production capacity of over 3 million metric tons of chemicals and plastics. They say that they can't provide at the present time an estimate for the return to production, as this is contingent on domestic and international factors. They also say the shutdown is expected to impact the year's financial results. Now, the month-long war with Iran has spread across the Middle East, disrupting energy supplies and threatening the global economy. And this is all because Tehran has responded to the U.S. and Bibi's attacks by attacking or targeting regional infrastructure and shipping. You know, they're trying to defend themselves as best they can. Like I told you, they've been using asymmetric warfare, and that's what they're going to continue to do. But my question is, while the Saudis and the UAE are telling Trump to move forward with a ground invasion and telling him what kind of demands the Saudis want, are they in charge or is Trump? I just have to ask myself that again, because why are they telling him what to do? Please pay attention. No, I just find it unfortunate that the Gulf nations seem to be blaming Iran for all of this, okay, rather than putting the blame where it lies. And that is with Bibi, Satan Yahoo, and Donald Trump. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, so With that all being said, that's who told Trump to say that. Okay, that's what the Saudi crown prince wants because he's losing money from all of his oil. And I find it all very interesting, but hold on. Let's go to this other clip. I almost forgot to show you all this. Now, as I said, there is a group and they're just going around, making threats about what they're going to do if you say anything about them or whatever. Now, I could see if people were being attacked, or brutalized or whatever. Hold on, where is this? Where is it? Okay, here we go, right here. If they're being brutalized, but because somebody is saying things, I'm sorry, people don't have freedom of speech. Well, I guess not, at least not when it comes to certain people. Okay, please pay attention. Now, just listen to how boldly the threats are. I find it all so nefarious.
Target Jewish students, your actions will not disappear into the darkness. We will shine a light on you that, thanks to Google and SEO, will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything, our work will always be documented. Again, thanks to Google and SEO. In corporations where DEI leaders smeared Israel, excused Hamas, we pressured CEOs. Some resigned, many were terminated, but policies were changed, thankfully, from governmental to art institutions. Online, where anonymous accounts spread violent threats, we traced patterns, elevated evidence, and worked with authorities, leading to arrests from Florida, South Carolina, New York, California, and Texas. And we're not slowing down, sadly. Today, Stop Anti-Semitism, I'm proud to say, runs one of the most robust anti-Semitic enforcement operations in the United States, monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials, documenting incidents in real time and mobilizing millions of people, of allies that are quietly by our side. But the fight is bigger than the exposure, and it's about securing a future where Jewish students can walk across a quad without being screamed at, a future where employers understand that anti-Semitism is not activism, it's bigotry, and it will cause you to lose your job.
Did y'all hear that? Now, if people are calling them any type of slurs, that absolutely would be considered bigotry. But I find it interesting because I'm not even sure what is anti-Semitism. You see, if people are calling you names, saying things that are disparaging, okay, that would definitely, in my opinion, be anti-Semitic. But if people are saying things about how much money you have, what you run, what you own, and all of that, I don't understand how that is disparaging. And I don't understand why they would be upset by that and include that as anti-Semitism. I also don't understand why, if you oppose, okay, their views, like if you're against the war, okay, if you are for the Palestinians and you say things like free Palestine, I don't see why that's considered anti-Semitism. And in fact, aren't the Palestinians Semites as well? Of course they are. So I just find it all very interesting and confusing at the same time. Don't you? Okay, but hey, what do I know? Now, with that all being said, I have got to show you all this next clip. This is very interesting to me. I just happened upon this today. Sometimes the Most High just sends me things that I'm not even looking for. Okay, I don't even know how this popped up. I was totally looking for something else, but this came up. Now, I want you to pay attention to it because there's a very good reason why, which I'll get to in a moment. Before I show the clip, let me address songwriter Sonny's little snide comment talking about Queen and her damn receipts. Well, that's right, me and my receipts. I'm the queen of them. And so I'm glad you said that because you reminded me to tell Nice M10K, hey, beloved, Nice M10K, I see you in the chat. I didn't see you last night. Now, it came to my attention on yesterday, beloved, that you wanted me to produce receipts proving that, in fact, the moon landing was fake. Well, I did so. Once I found out, I got you those receipts. They're on the broadcast from last night. If you don't want to watch the whole video, then just fast forward towards the end, maybe the last 20 minutes or so. And there you will find all of the receipts you need to prove and verify that, of course, The moon landing was fake. I don't know how anyone doesn't know that by now. Okay, now with that all being said, I did that just for you. Okay, I did that just for you. Okay, that's right. Since you prophetic bastard said Hollywood moon landing 100. Exactly. All right, so tune in for that, beloved. All right, thank you. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. This right here, I want you to pay attention because they say these red beams converging across the clouds tonight, unexplained phenomenon in the sky. Let me also say that the sky was blood red, okay, just days ago after a cyclone. And I do believe that was in Australia. Now, but check this out. Hold on, something's wrong with my mouse. Hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, now with that all being said, I wanted you to see those orbs. And the reason, Durana said, Queen said, beloved in syllables. Yes, when I'm being sarcastic, that's what I usually tend to do. Okay, now with that all being said, listen. There was a man by the name of Chris Bledsoe who back in 2012 predicted those orbs would come when there was a war with Iran and Bibi's people. Okay, I find it very interesting. So let's go to him when he said this so many years ago before it even happened. And now here we are.
It's in writing to the Pentagon in 2012 when I told this. Okay?
2012.
One thing she told me was, when you see Iran and Israel exchanging missiles, and I saw it, the way she tells me is a vision of, I see it like a living picture screen. I can see the rockets flying. Then all of a sudden, orbs appeared out of the ocean and everywhere.
Great.
And I told the government, if this happens, the orb's going to appear and wake people up and stop it. That's what she told me.
April 2026.
Yeah. And I put this in writing to the Pentagon.
Okay, so you all heard that? What do you all make of it? What do you all make of that? He said this way back in 2012. Okay, he said those orbs would, this lady, some vision came to him and she told him this was going to happen. He even went to the government, even told the Pentagon. Okay, let's go to this other clip and then we're going to move on to the updates so we can see what happened to Tel Aviv while Trump was giving that speech last night.
14 years ago, UFO experiencer Chris Bledsoe was given this information by the lady, his extraterrestrial contact, about April 2026. Let's have a listen.
Funny. What she said was, there will be, when we see Israel and Iran doing their thing and the orbs begin to appear, from that point forward, they're going to begin to awaken the people. And there was no stopping it. And if we went to war, they would stop.
So you believe from what you've been told, which obviously you can't know for sure, you're only being told this, but you believe from what you're being told that the entities, the beings are going to intervene to stop us from killing ourselves.
They did that during November on television.
And disclosure of the fact of a non-human intelligence.
It'll come next year.
You believe next year?
I'm sure. I feel sure. I think the government has got to. They have no choice, because my book clearly states what Chris said. It is the lady explained to me that in April of 26, there would be records.
So that interview
the Hall of Records is that.
So that interview was from about 10 months ago. It's now April 2026. And that blue star Regulus will appear red in front of the Sphinx next Sunday, Easter Sunday, 2026.
Okay, so what do you all think? That's very interesting, right? Also, let me just tell you all something. Speaking of extraterrestrials, remember the other day when I showed you all the clip of Vice President J.D. Vance saying that the aliens in the sky, saying that those were demons. Remember when he said that? Now, I absolutely believe in demons, okay, Nephilim, if you will, but I was thinking about that after the fact when he said those were demons. You know, maybe he really thinks they're demons, but maybe I think he knows exactly what they are because I'm sure that he's privy. Well, we know that he's privy to classified information. So you know what that means? That means that JD Vance knows that the real extraterrestrials are black because astronauts have already said it. Other witnesses have already said it. So is he trying to tell us that the black extraterrestrials are demons? Is that what he's trying to say? I want you all to pay attention because he is very racist, a whole wanton supremacist. Okay? So is he saying that these black aliens are demons? I absolutely believe that's exactly what he's saying. He knows that those are extraterrestrials. Okay, please pay attention. He knows the difference between extraterrestrials and Nephilim, i.e., demons. Okay, so that's what he's doing. He is trying to call the black extraterrestrials demons, in my opinion. Okay, now with that all being said, let's see what happened to Tel Aviv. Because, you know, they're saying that while Trump was giving his little old speech and telling all those nefarious lies and whatnot, they claim that Iran dropped over 101, there was 101 strikes, okay? But this is the man who sat up there and told us all that they were out, you know, they didn't have any more, they couldn't do any more strikes. Basically, their military's gone and all of this. He's just lying. And I don't understand how MAGA can be so obtuse. But clearly they are because that's why they voted for Trump. But let's continue.
Intercepted Iranian missile attack has injured at least 5 Israelis near Tel Aviv. Fragments from a cluster missile also damaged water infrastructure in Bnei Brak district. A number of vehicles were damaged and several areas of Tel Aviv have reportedly been hit. Let's speak to Abed Abu Shahadeh, a political commentator joining us now from Jaffa. Thank you and good morning to you. What sort of a day would you say, or last 24 hours, has it been in Israel when it comes to those missile attacks?
Good morning. I think yesterday everybody was surprised because Israeli media kept saying that the Iranian missile capability has been going down in the last few days, especially that we have seen a decrease in number of missiles, especially to the center. And yesterday was extremely difficult throughout the day and throughout the night, which brings more and more Israelis to ask serious questions concerning all the promises that they've been hearing since the beginning of the war, concerning, first off, the goals of the war, and now concerning the Iranian missile capability. So I think it was extremely difficult, especially today, yesterday and today.
Now, listen, here's the thing. I cut him off because I'm going to the next clip. But I want you all to pay attention to something. What he was saying, he was talking about yesterday when all of these strikes were going on, right? He was talking about it was the Jewish holiday, okay, the Passover. And so I want you to pay attention because they are complaining that Iran was hitting them with strikes during their holiday, the Passover. I'm sorry. When there's a holiday, the war is supposed to stop. But what I also find interesting is that the media, the lamestream media, is also picking up on that talking point. I heard it on Fox News. And here's the thing. You know, they didn't highlight that when Bibi and Trump had them strike Iran during Ramadan. They didn't say anything about it then. What about Iran's holiday? Or not holiday, but what about their monthly celebration of Ramadan? Why didn't they say anything about that? You see, they didn't. So I find it interesting. Okay, I find it very interesting. But also, there was another incident, if I'm not mistaken. There was another incident when they supposedly, BB and them, stopped the Christians from praying on Palm Sunday in the Holy City. Okay, they stopped them from praying in the Holy City on Palm Sunday. And this is something that has been going on for several hundreds of years, okay, according to my calculations. And so they basically made them stop doing that. Okay, so, or they wouldn't allow them to do it, but they didn't say anything about that. Okay, I just want you to pay attention to how nobody says or nobody wants to call out when they do things, but they want to call out when Iran does things. Okay, please pay attention. I just find it all interesting. Okay, let's go to this clip.
Deceptions as another major Iranian wave reached central Israel. What many observers now describe as one of the most unstable stages of this confrontation is no longer being viewed as a single isolated event. It is increasingly being seen as a sustained pattern, one that is reshaping daily life for civilians and raising serious questions about how much longer the region can withstand this level of pressure. Across Tel Aviv and nearby districts, residents were forced back into what has now become a familiar routine. Families moved quickly into shelters, stairwells, safe rooms and underground protected spaces as air defense systems activated overhead. The skyline lit up again and again as defensive systems engaged in coming threats. Yet despite those interceptions, impacts were still reported in and around central Israel. By morning, several areas were dealing with scorched roads, shattered windows, damaged buildings, and a growing sense of public anxiety that another wave could follow at any moment. This
Okay. So with that all being said, you know, Iran looks like they've been pretty busy. Okay, so now let's go to this interview with Colonel Douglas McGregor, and he gives his insight on everything that's going on. Okay, and then he also calls out some of the lies and BS. Okay, and then we're going to go to a rabbi who had a whole lot to say about Bibi and them. Okay, likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Now I'm going to play some of this and then I'm going to fast forward because this is like 32 minutes long. So we're going to listen to a few minutes, then I'll fast forward it to the other part.
3 weeks, the task would be completely finished. He said talks, the negotiations.
Hold on, I forgot my overlay. Don't need any copyright issues.
That he had earlier claimed were going really well would continue, but if there was no deal, then Iran was going to be hit very, very hard. The bottom line, we simply do not know where we stand. All we know is that there is no end yet to this war. In a moment from now, we'll be going live to the United States.
So I would say disappointment is an understatement. I had really hoped that he would take into account the really terrible impact this war is having on the global economy. You know, again, our friends around the world are being harmed. The Japanese, the Koreans, India is being harmed. You do $180 billion in trade every year with the Gulf states. Those Gulf states, I don't think, are going to survive now. They're in bad shape at this point, but I think the next 2 to 3 weeks could be devastating. And it's not just the Gulf states. I think the whole global economy is in trouble. And I was hoping that he would change course. I really was, because he's using a sledgehammer to fix a cell phone. This is a 20th century method of operation. You could have seen this happen in Korea, in Vietnam, and we did. And I can tell you, frankly, these massive bombing attacks, even though they become more precise over time, they're devastating, but they're not effective. And, you know, if this has been so successful, Why is it that every time he gives a speech and talks about how great everything is, the Iranians launch tactical and theater ballistic missiles at all of their opponents and drones? I mean, there's no evidence that the capability to reach out with this connectivity, this networked ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance in space and in the terrestrial environment, that's also networked with all the strike systems all over Iran. Some people call it a mosaic strategy, but they're distributed. They're all over the country. They can converge and deliver enormous, precise firepower very quickly. I don't see any evidence that that capability has been seriously affected.
Or a war, the stated goals of which are not clear to anybody, either in the United States of America or anywhere in the world.
Well, whatever anybody says, the reason we are there is to compel Iran to meet Israel's demands. That's why we're there. The Israelis want, under no circumstances, any form of uranium enrichment. They don't care what percentage, they don't want any. Number two, they don't want Iran to communicate, cooperate with, or talk to any of their partners in the region, whether they're the Houthis or Hezbollah or anybody else. And I think the other thing that they want is that they want the Iranians to dismantle a large portion of their ballistic missiles. Certainly anything that can reach beyond a couple of 100 miles. Now, the Iranians have made it very clear that they were willing to talk about the uranium enrichment, and they actually came, according to certain sources, quite a distance in the direction of what the Israelis wanted on that. Not complete, but close. And they absolutely cannot compromise on their ballistic missile arsenal for reasons that we're already seeing. It's very lethal. It's their only means of self-defense, plus the drones. And they're not going to stop cooperating with others in the region who cooperate with them. So we're there to change that. That's really the truth. Now, we thought that decapitation as an initial phase, in other words, go in and kill the top leadership, could precipitate the disintegration of the Iranian state, that this would then provoke another uprising of sorts. And we have grossly exaggerated the size and scope of that unrest that we're seeing. The president said in his speech, 45,000 people. Complete nonsense. We can't go beyond 3,500. And we know that the reason.
Now, did you all hear what he just said? He basically just said that when they're talking about the 45,000 people killed in those protests, that's complete nonsense. That's all complete nonsense and a whole load of BS. Okay, now listen to what he says.
Reasons for the killings were that the Mossad agents working there and using 40,000 Starlink terminals from Mr. Musk were able to coordinate and organize this demonstration. Then they passed out weapons to the crowd and urged people in the crowd to kill policemen. When that began, naturally, the police turned back on them and fired in response. But it was not the mass destruction that he's presenting. There are people in Iran who would like to see change. Unfortunately, I think we've killed most of them at this point, because a lot of our bombings in and around Tehran have struck neighborhoods where you had the country's intellectual leadership, and in many cases, what I would call middle and upper middle class Iranians who want a different kind of government, a more secular government. There's no question about that. And we've destroyed those neighborhoods. We may have killed most of those people. The point is, none of that worked. And having failed, they then turned to the disintegration of the state. In other words, what can we do that destroys the state? They don't understand the Iranians. Like India, this is another great civilizational state. And by the way, the Iranians will tell you they owe much of their civilization to you and what came from India. And they have not been your enemy. You've had a good border with them for most of your history. So the bottom line is that they're going to survive. That's the problem for Donald Trump. He doesn't understand, and I don't think most people in Washington understand, Persia will survive. They're not going away. That's the bottom line. And
Now pay attention to how he called them Persia, because I've told you all that Iran was formerly Persia. But the reason he says Persia is going to survive is because at some point Persia ruled the world. Okay? Persia was the baddest empire. And those are the same people. Please pay attention. Okay, let's continue.
And it doesn't matter what you do to them. My great fear is that when we discover this is a waste of time finally and we stop, we will have done so much damage to the global economy, it'll take years to recover. But then there's always a danger that Israel decides they want to use a nuclear weapon. I hope not, because that would be the end of Israel, as I think many people have stated publicly. I know this man, Mr. Gao, who is Chinese, has made that very clear, that they would become a pariah state and would ultimately not survive. I don't know if they'll survive now. I mean, they've taken a beating. Large numbers of their citizens have left the country, and more will want to go, no doubt. So the bottom line is, I guess when fertilizer goes up, the price of basic rice and onions and the street goes up. You're going to see unrest. You're going to see governments fall. So this is not just a military campaign. It's an economic tax. It's an economic tax on every American citizen. It's an economic tax on every Indian citizen.
Okay, so now with that all being said, listen, excuse me, sorry for the interruption. That was an important phone call that I was waiting on. Okay, so but now listen, I want you all to hear, let me find this clip, what this rabbi says about Satan Yahoo, because he says that Satan Yahoo is Amalek. Okay, we're going to listen to a few minutes of this, not the whole thing. And I'm going to put an overlay on here. But also, this is something I also want to tell you all about that I found out yesterday that I think is very interesting. Okay, so let me just pull this up. So BB has this plan called the Samson Option. And I want you all to really listen to this as I explain it to you, because I find it interesting that the United States knows all about this plan, but they think, or they want us to think, that Iran is dangerous, that Iran is putting the world in danger, that they are the ones who should not have nuclear capabilities. But I'm telling you, the ones who should absolutely not be allowed to have nuclear capabilities are BB and them. Okay, first of all, they did want to have their things inspected, their nuclear capabilities. Iran was more than willing, but also this plan is very nefarious, and I want you all to pay attention, and I'm sure you won't be surprised. Now, I have already said to you that I feel like the fact that they're losing this war, they see they just can't win. Soldiers in the IDF are fleeing. They're begging and pleading to stop, and all of this. I think that BB would absolutely nuke them. Okay? I've been thinking it, and I said it to you last week, but now I know for sure he will, and here's why. Let me pull this up on the screen. Let me pull this up on the screen. Now listen to this. They have something that is known as the Samson Option. Now, if you know about the story of Samson in the Bible, you know that when Samson was blinded and the Philistines were going to kill him, as he stood there in front of that tower or the temple, that huge building he was in front of, he put his hands on the pillars and he asked God to give him the strength to knock down those pillars and to kill and to die with the Philistines, right? Well, that's pretty much the same plan that BB's got. Listen to this. The Samson Option. It is a term coined by military analysts and authors to describe Israel's alleged strategic doctrine of employing massive nuclear retaliation as a last resort. Do y'all hear this? This is his plan. Okay, this is a doctrine that they have to describe a strategic doctrine of employing massive nuclear retaliation. I don't know why I can't say strategic this morning, but let me continue. Employing massive nuclear retaliation as a last resort. If the state is facing an existential threat or being destroyed by a foreign military. Do y'all hear that? And they are absolutely being destroyed. Now listen, it goes on to say, it is a doomsday deterrent strategy. Okay, a doomsday deterrent strategy suggesting that if they are in fact on the brink of annihilation, it might choose to take its enemies down with them, with some interpretations extending this to a wider regional or global catastrophe. They might kill us all. But you mean to tell me that the United States is allowing them to have nuclear capabilities, but not Iran? Do y'all hear that? I want you to sit there and let that marinate for just a second. This is the work of a devil named Satan Yahoo. Okay? Y'all hear that? Now, if anything is nefarious, surely that is. So when I tell you, how does this even make any sense to the United States, to the UN, to anyone to think that it's okay for them to have this type of power? Okay, this is absolutely crazy. Nice M10K says, yeah, I unfortunately think they would do it. Absolutely, they would do it. Absolutely. They, like, okay, if we're going down, we're taking everybody with us. Those are the people who should absolutely not be allowed to have nuclear weaponry. Okay, please make that all make sense. But now let's go to this rabbi. And because he says that Bibi is Amalek. Now I want you to pay attention because Bibi's always calling somebody else Amalek. He called Iran Amalek. That's what he calls his enemies. Okay, but you know, this rabbi seems to think that he's it. Okay, and I do too. So let's continue.
Netanyahu is Amalek.
What means it's not really a person? Amalek is a concept. Amalek describes the people who uproot people away from God.
Hold on, I want you all to pay attention to what he said. He said Amalek is not a person, it's a concept. People who want to move other people away from God. Now, isn't that almost exactly what I told you all about the Antichrist? I said the Antichrist is not a person. It's not a specific individual. It is an energy, a spirit that one acquires. And Trump absolutely has it. Okay, so let's continue.
From God. A person. Amalek is a concept. Amalek describes the people who uproot people away from God. At that time, for 3,500 years ago, when Jewish people got out from, when God took us out from Egypt, then the whole world has so in believing God, in so the big power of God. And everybody was afraid in the walls. There is a God in the world. He runs the world. Then at that time, it comes some nation. It calls Amalek, and show for the world. No, we don't have to fear God. We can do whatever we want. Since then, Amalek is the symbol of people who uproot people from God. In today's day, we cannot point any specific nation to say, this is Amalek, or this is Amalek, or this is Amalek. Amalek today is a concept of the people who uproot people away from God. Now, you don't have to come now to my answer. You have the answer yourself. Who uprooting people away from God in today's day? Not the Palestinians, not Iran. Iran is a God-fearing people. They're serving God. Who uprooting God? The right people who are uprooting God is Netanyahu and or the whole Zionist. They uproot. Today are 18 million Jews. 16 of them, they're secular. They don't believe in God. Whose job is that? This is the job of the Zionists in the last 140 years since they started the movement of Zionism. They uproot people from God constantly.
So you're saying Netanyahu is Amalek?
Netanyahu, I didn't have to say it. This is the fact. Amalek means people who uproot people from God, especially the Jewish people uproot from God. This is the job of Netanyahu do. And exactly, he is the Amalek. But I didn't have to say it. This is just the fact. I bring out the fact on the table. But I say that with the full mouth. And I have no problem to say that. He is the right Amalek. Who gives him the right to say who is Amalek, who's not? Of course, everybody who is his enemy will say he is Amalek. I can say for you, I can say for everybody. I mean, you have to understand what it means, Amalek. Now, I will come to another point. For 100 years ago, one of our greatest rabbis at that time, before the State of Israel, but after the Zionist movement begins, yes, 40 years after the Zionist movement begins, one of our greatest rabbis' name was the Chofetz Chaim. The books of the Chofetz Chaim you have in every single synagogue throughout the world. You will not find even one synagogue without his books. He was very famous, one of the biggest rabbis. He said that very clearly, that the Zionists are Amalek in today's day.
And he said this when?
100 years ago.
100 years ago.
Before the creation still of the state. Okay. Then Zionism was a movement in the try with many things to bring up people to Israel to become a majority there. And they're working very hard to bring up people from Russia, from Poland, from Hungary, from Ukraine, from all these countries to become a majority at that time, for 100 years ago, to become a majority in the Holy Land. He said that at that time, that they are the Amalek. Again, his name was the Chofetz Chaim. And the reference of that is in the book of Ikvus of the Mashiach, it calls.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there, beloveds, but I want you all to know one more thing, one more bit of news. Okay, they say word on the street is that Trump may possibly be firing Pam Bondi. Okay, let's go to that clip.
President is considering a cabinet shakeup. What are you learning on this front?
Yeah, this is some reporting that we're doing tonight with my colleagues Elena Treen and Kristen Holmes. We have confirmed from multiple sources, John, that the president has been talking privately recently about replacing the Attorney General Pam Bondi, firing her from her role running the Justice Department, and actually instead putting the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin in that position. Now, it's not confirmed yet that he is going to oust her. We have not gotten reporting that he's made a final decision on this. You can see this is her today as she was getting in the motorcade, actually, with the president to go with him to the Supreme Court to listen to those hearings on birthright citizenship. But the president's attitude on her, John, for the last several months really has been quite sour. And a lot of it has to do with the backlash over the handling of the Epstein investigation. The president doesn't like the headlines they're getting. They don't like the negative response that they're getting, even from Republicans, from their base, and folks on Capitol Hill. And also, John, ahead of this 2-week.
Hold on, let me just say this. You know what I find interesting? I mean, this is good for Pam Bondi. She's a whole idiot. All of Trump's entire administration are idiots, in my opinion. But I have told you all that all of these people that are doing everything at the behest of Trump are all going to be in trouble. They're going to lose their license to practice law. People like Bondi or Blondie and Leslie, or what's the other lady's name? Lindsay Halligan. Okay, and Bondi's already in trouble. You know, she's already standing the risk of losing her license. But here's the thing. Trump is upset about headlines and backlash. Isn't he the cause of it? Isn't she doing what he told her to do? But I want you to pay attention to how even when they do what Trump tells them to do, if what he has told them and delegated them to do gets a negative response, he blames them, not himself. And that's because he's a malignant narcissist and a whole psychopath. Okay, that's what he is. He will never accept any accountability for anything that he does. Okay, please pay attention.
Deadline where Pam Bondi is supposed to go and testify on Capitol Hill because they subpoenaed her, including Republicans on that committee, the House Oversight Committee. And so the White House has been eyeing that deadline. It's April 14th, I believe, that she's set to go and testify as a date. And this is something the president had been talking about back in January. It appeared to subside a bit, John, and then now has kind of resurrected itself, where this is a conversation we started hearing from sources was really heating up in the West Wing on Monday. But one thing that, I've talked to people, it's not even clear to them if this is actually going to happen. The president talks a lot about this. It's not clear if he'll follow through on it. And he did issue a statement tonight calling Pam Bondi a wonderful person and saying that she's doing a good job. And so we'll see if that shakes out here. He also similarly stood by Kristi Noem until he didn't, John. And so we'll have to wait and see what the president himself ultimately decides when it comes to Pam Bondi running the Justice Department.
So let's start off, first of all, with Pam Bondi. What is the sense, Aaron, why now, if she is set to go?
It's a really good question. I think that, we talked about the Epstein files. That's been a saga that's been playing out really for more than a year right now. But we've also seen in recent weeks, especially in recent months, these attempts to target Trump's political opponents that have kind of coursed through the DOJ. And we see this pop up every once in a while and then kind of fade away. Those haven't gone very well. Some of these cases, they did get indictments, and the indictments were thrown out. The Jerome Powell investigation hasn't exactly gone to plan. There's reporting that suggests that some of these investigations have ramped up as some of the pressure has increased on Bondi. But we haven't really seen that kind of retribution campaign that Trump has talked about really being brought forward. And so it kind of makes me wonder, if President Trump is looking at Bondi's stewardship of the Justice Department right now, what successes is he seeing in his mind, the things that he's really looking for? And I'm not sure he's necessarily seeing those.
Which then makes me wonder, too, let's say, Mike, Pam Bondi is out. Let's say Lee Zeldin ends up there, for example, or anyone else. Do you anticipate, because some of the roadblocks, frankly, that this DOJ has run into is a lack of evidence for what the president would like to see happen? What actually changes if the person at the top changes, if the facts don't change?
So,
Great question.
So to answer your first question, though, what changed? Kristi Noem is no longer taking all the flack to begin with. So Pam Bondi was second in line for the media and everyone else to come after. So I think that's part of it. I think your point is well taken. Pam Bondi has done for the president what Pete Sessions couldn't do in the first administration. And that's basically run an organization that is pursuing a lot of the efforts that the president wants her to pursue. I don't find the reporting on him questioning whether she should go or stay to be all that fascinating, because he does that all the time. And I don't think that's actually new. Maybe it's ratcheted up a little bit. But this is, from my experience, this is Trump being Trump.
This is maybe Trump being Trump, right? But do you think, given that, as you just pointed out, now Kristi Noem is gone, more attention on Pam Bondi?
There is, but we can't forget that she was easily replaced by a fellow senator, Markwayne Mullin, who was able to go through a confirmation hearing. A confirmation hearing for DOJ is not going to be as smooth with a Lee Zeldin, who doesn't have those relationships. So we got to look at the entire picture here and what is the art of the possible. And I'm not sure replacing Pam Bondi prior to the midterms is possible.
There's also, looking at the whole picture, I find this to be a fascinating through line between the Pam Bondi reporting and what we saw at the Supreme Court yesterday, President Trump being there. And to me, the through line is President Trump, and he's been very clear about this publicly, he has certain expectations of people that he puts in certain positions.
Okay, so she's talking about Trump has expectations. Please. Okay, please. What kind of expectations does Trump have? These people are doing exactly what he told them to do and nothing more or nothing less. He's firing them because he's giving them bad instructions and they're idiots who follow through with them. Okay? And so I don't know how they haven't figured that out as of yet. With that all being said, listen, beloveds, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please, before you leave, if you could just like and share the video, that would be great. Okay, and I will see you all this evening because we're going to be talking about some unsolved mysteries later. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. Unsolved mysteries, some strange things, okay? Strange occurrences. All right, so with that all being said, listen, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, peace.
Yeah. You crossed the ocean just to find your grave. Sacrificed your own boys for a lie. Listen. Yeah. Yeah. Make America great again. Yo, Tails, this shit crazy. Yeah. Make America great again now. We will see what happens, yeah. Watch this. Sacred defense, we protecting the soil. While you sacrifice soldiers to pay for your spoil. You first you ran the blow, sitting on your throne. Now we turning every base into a bed of stone. It's a slaughterhouse, a trap you couldn't see. Welcome to the graveyard of your vanity. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target. And now you are hiding. LOSC. Yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC. Taste the ash of defeat. LOSC. Yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC. Taste the ash of defeat. In your suit, hiding Epstein's ghost. You sent your boys to die on the bloody coast. Not a revenge for the leader's blood is purely mine. Every drop of his blood is a missile on the line. You thought you took him out, thought the fire was dead, but another common name is standing ahead. Yeah, you strike one down, we just shatter your brain. We put another in the leg. Common name again. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target. And now you are hiding. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC. Taste the ash. LOSC. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC. Taste the ash of defeat. Sacred defense of the homeland. Sacred defense of the homeland.